It is 6:30, so I'm going to go on and call us to order. Actually changed to 6:31 while I was talking and saying that, but we're going to go with 6:30. Um, but with that, I'm going to ask that Commissioner Hardwick open us up with prayer.
Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for our country, for this 4th of July celebration this week. And ask that you bless our city, bless us as we make decisions tonight for the best of the city. And we ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Caitlin, will you call the roll, please?
Altizer,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Hardwick,
Here.
Hasty,
Here.
Longmire. Martin is absent. Silkwood. Here. Slattery. Here. Coker.
Here.
8 are present.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is a public hearing. This is going to be a public hearing related to Music City Studios, Molly Walton Industrial, CDP amendment, ad use. I believe we have had 2 individuals sign up for that. I'm going to ask you to the podium on this. I'm going to call you one at a time on this. When you get there, even though I'll call your name, if you would get there, if you'd introduce yourself and then also state your address on this. But first up, we have Richard Markham. If you would step to the podium, please.
Well, good evening. I wanted to essentially close the loop. I live at 301 Forest Retreat Road, so just the other side of a shared border with the project. And as over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to the Planning Commission, to Stormwater, and a few other folks, trying to find out what was going on in the buffer. Wanted to let you know that Elaine Baker did reach out to me, and we talked yesterday. He went over his plans. I have his contact information now, so if there's something going that I haven't heard about, I can contact him. What he told me was they're going to expand the buffer, or they're planning to expand the buffer over the Music City original plans, that they'll be replacing the trees and vegetation that they bulldozed in the buffer area to do the drilling close to my house. And, you know, with that done, with putting a double row of what looked like shrubs in as landscape on their side of the buffer on top of it, it looks like their plan should keep the light and noise on their side of the street, so to speak. So I just wanted to let you know, in case anyone had heard from the planning folks when I was talking to them, that we did manage to get together. They reached out to me, and it looks like things have been resolved on my part. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, we have, for the public hearing, we have Jerry Gray. Mr. Gray, would you step to the podium? Yes. And again, even though I've mentioned your name twice, if you would state your name and address for the record one more time.
Yeah, Jerry Gray, and we live at 401 Forest Retreat Road.
Thank you.
A few questions I have. One is traffic issues. And I've been told that they've been working on putting in an exit off of Vietnam Veterans onto Forest Retreat Road. And I was wondering about the increase of traffic that may happen once the music center is completed. And how are they proposing to run the traffic, you know, in and out from that area? Is it going to be from Forest Retreat on around, or is it going to be off of Gallatin Road onto Molly Walton Drive? So I was concerned about that. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Was there anybody that intended to sign up for this public hearing that did not get a chance to before I declare it closed. And I know we probably have some representatives from the developer here on that. You'll get the opportunity to speak when we get to this agenda item. But was there, before I declare the public hearing closed, is there anybody that wanted the opportunity to speak on this that did not sign up? Seeing nobody indicating such, I'm going to declare the public hearing closed, and we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comments relative to agenda items only, and we did not have anybody sign up for that, so I'm going to declare that closed. Yeah. Director Free wants to make a comment.
Yeah, I might explain. I explained it to the chairman, but I want to explain it to the rest of the planning commissioners. We have, starting with this meeting, we have changed the order in which public comment is coming up. So it's coming up at this point in time before the acceptance of the agenda. Previously, we've had that public comment after the acceptance of agenda, and a lot of times we have items that are on the consent agenda, and then with this change, it'll give an opportunity, kind of like what we ran into last time. It'll give an opportunity if someone is speaking to something that's on the agenda, it might be on the consent agenda, but then you all can be aware of it, and then you might want to pull it off if you want to dig into it a little bit deeper. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. It's a subtle change, but I think this will be a better way to do it. Okay, thank you.
No. Thank you, Director Free, and I appreciate the explanation of that. And of course, you had shared that with me before, and I think that's a good change on that because it allows us to delve into things if we need to on that. But with that, I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
We accept the agenda.
I believe that was a motion from Commissioner Hasty, and I think I heard a motion starting to come from Commissioner Longmire as well. But can I take that as a second, if you don't? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next up on the agenda is motion to approve the minutes from our June 4th meeting, and since I was absent on that, I'm just going to abstain on that, but I will entertain a motion to approve.
Hold on a minute. I noticed in the packet, in the minutes, there were a couple of times where Mr. Coker was making a motion, but he was absent, and I discussed it with Caitlin, and she said she would get that corrected.
I appreciate you catching that.
I know
I try to be in two places at one time sometimes, but that was not last month, so.
With those adjustments, I'll make the motion we approve.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second, and all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any, we have two abstentions then on that, but any opposition? Hearing none, we have, motion is going to carry with two abstentions then on that. Next up on the agenda is our consent agenda. And now we of course have approved our agenda, but is there any comments or any questions about items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. We have a motion from Commissioner Longmire.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Altizer. With this, we will go into a roll call vote. Okay. Yeah. And okay. And just want to kind of point out, and Director Free made a good point, this is two different items, not to get confusing. There's one item on the consent agenda for the Molly Walton Industrial. This is site plan, not to be confused with the add use on the development plan, which we'll get into in just a moment. Caitlin, were you able to catch I think everybody had voted on that. Were you able to catch that? Okay. I think we need to do that again then. Okay.
Motion passes with 8 yeses, 0 abstentions, and 0 noses.
Thank you. And now next up is item 8. This is the development plans, and we have one item on here. This is the development, or the add use for Music City Studios. And with this, I will ask the representatives for the developers to step up to the podium, but I think, Timothy, you have this for staff. If you will kind of give us an introduction, what's going on, then I'll ask y'all to kind of chime in, then we'll open up for questions from commissioners then.
Thank you. As I'm sure all of y'all are aware, Music City Studio project is not going to materialize. So in its place, Lincoln Property Company has proposed the site plan that was just approved. It's a similar scale and layout generally to the old Music City Studios project. It's about 182,000 square feet less than that project. But they're proposing to have 5 buildings which would house different tenants. Most of those would be warehousing and distribution. Those are allowed uses currently within the master plan. However, light manufacturing was never added to that plan. So they're requesting all to add light manufacturing to the list of allowed uses. This is zoned industrial plan development. Elsewhere within the Freehill Industrial Park, it's zoned just straight industrial. Light manufacturing is allowed by right in that base zoning. Light manufacturing is basically allows for processing and manufacturing of products that are wholly contained within a building, not outside. So it does not allow for outside noise, dust, vibration, stuff like that. So everything's got to be contained within the building. I think we had a question about the 386 exit. That is a project that's planned by TDOT. I don't know what the schedule is for that. Trey with engineering may have some information on that, but I think Trey, we also had some questions about traffic flow, and I think Trey could speak to that.
I can. So a traffic impact study was done for this project, and it looks like the level of service won't be affected by the trips generated during peak hours or otherwise. There were very minuscule, very negligible differences in the build-out condition with the delays, and it didn't affect the level of service.
Are you referring to in the construction phase?
Once the project is completed and they're using it as a warehouse, distribution center, whatever that use is going to be, they generated trips for the build out of the project, and it won't affect the level of service at the existing intersections. And it looks like they had acceptable levels of service for the proposed access points. I don't recall the exact level of service you were speaking to, the one at the tie-in at Forest Retreat, but I can take a closer look at that. But they were all acceptable.
Sir, sorry, I want to give a little bit of grace here, but at this point, public comments were the opportunity for the public to speak. At this point, this is where staff will speak, and then they'll speak, and then we'll ask some of these questions. What we like to do is we like to hear what you'll say, so then we can take and ask those questions for because if we had 500 people in here tonight doing that, we don't obviously, but if we had 500 people in here tonight, you can see where it'd get a little bit of hairy doing that. So that's why we have the public hearing portion, public comment portion of that. But we'll get some questions like on that. So yeah. So, but I didn't mean to cut you off on that. But if you want to answer that question, it's a pertinent question on that. I just wanted to kind of make you aware of the process. Yeah, I just want to make you aware of the process on that. So.
You're fine, and I actually forgot what your question was already, but I do know that there are representatives from the project here today that can probably answer some of your questions.
Increased traffic flow off of Vietnam Veterans, and that comes right around in front of my house. And I'm concerned with the amount of traffic. Will it increase? I'm sure it will.
I think you'll see very negligible impacts on that corridor.
Anything else that you need to add, Timothy, or you need to add anything before we have representatives from the vote?
That concludes my
Was any future projected traffic from the interchange even included within the TIS?
No, sir, I don't believe there was, but the engineers that put that together could probably answer that
So
question.
we don't have a timetable on when it will happen.
No, sir.
But with a lot of work going on the bypass, I was kind of led to believe that it might be imminent, or may come on pretty quickly as far as that interchange is concerned, since the right-of-way is already there. It's just a matter of the constructing of the interchange.
I could maybe speak to it a little bit. That's okay,
Director Freed?
Chairman. Yeah, on the 386 interchange, we don't really have a time frame. I don't think it's anything in the very near future with all the improvements. I think the last that I heard of about it is that it's going to be grouped with the widening of the extra lanes. They're going to be added to 386. So at this time, we don't anticipate that interchange will be done prior to all of those other improvements. But I wanted to mention too is the extension of Molly Walton. This particular project is having to build that extension along their property, but it's not going to be tying into the forest retreat at this time. That hopefully it will in the future, but at this point it's not connecting at this point. But when that interchange does happen, and then eventually that connection from Molly Walton is made to Forest Retreat, then access from that industrial park, there will be increased, but it won't just be this particular development. It would be access from any of the different places that are in the industrial park. So I just kind of wanted to mention that.
So to answer your question about the interchange, we don't really know.
Yeah, it does to some degree, but
Right.
after it's built, then that's when you can clearly see it then.
I'm going to ask for y'all if you want to, if there's anything that y'all, and same thing, if y'all would introduce yourselves, say
Sure.
who you're with, that sort of thing.
Good evening. My name is Erica Garrison. I'm a land use and zoning lawyer with Bradley Arendt, and I'm here on behalf of Lincoln Properties. With me, I have Brendan Bowles from Kinley Horn, and you've got a lot of traffic questions, and so he's going to be here to talk about all of that. And I also have two representatives from Lincoln Property. I've got Tyler Jones and Lane Baker. And so they're here to answer any questions you have about the business or the need for light manufacturing if you've got those questions. I'll be very brief because, frankly, Timothy, you covered it all. But in terms of the change of use, we're actually here because what we heard as we started to look and do diligence on this property was that both the IDB, the Hendersonville Chamber, which actually has written us a real nice letter of support, and Forward Sumner all said to us, hey guys, can you think about doing light manufacturing? Warehouse and distribution is great, but that doesn't actually bring all the types of jobs that we would like to see. Light manufacturing is actually a less impactful use from a traffic standpoint. Because you don't have as many truck traffic trips coming and going, and it actually has better jobs, that are good for our community. Could you look at that? And we looked at the PUD and we said, well, that's not allowed right now, but we could consider it an amendment. And when we looked at it, we thought, there is adjacent industrial users, adjacent industrially zoned property. The policy is industrial. And so we thought that it made a lot of sense. And so this is going to be Class A industrial office space. It is going to be smaller in terms of square footage, 182,000 square feet less than what you had in the original PUD. It's going to be lower in terms of height. We're going from 90 feet for one of the buildings down to 45 feet. And it's going to be less impactful in terms of the intensity of the development. We're going to maintain the buffers. We have a 30-foot buffer along the edges of the property, and we're going to maintain the setbacks and, of course, build the Molly Walton extension that was talked about. So as we reviewed the code and looked at it, we thought that, this is consistent with the land use plan, it's consistent with the ordinance, and we're going to maintain the standards of the PUD or actually make it less impactful. We're going to have accessibility to the streets because we're extending Molly Walton. And we didn't think that there was going to be a substantial adverse environmental impact because we're actually less impactful and we're maintaining that buffer. So we thought it made good sense. And we're here tonight to talk to you about that and see if you have any other questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Brendan, and he can talk to you about traffic.
Thanks, Erica. Brendan Bowles with Kimley Horn and Associates, 10 Lee Avenue in Nashville, and here tonight about the Molly Walton proposed site plan. As Erica mentioned and Timothy mentioned, we have less square footage, less height. We feel like it's less impactful. Regarding Forest Retreat Drive and access, we're not proposing any access on Forest Retreat Drive for any of the trucks or any of the cars. It's actually emergency access only, which was similar in the Music City Studios site plan. So there will be none of our traffic, daily traffic, coming in and out of our development onto Forest Retreat Drive. So you shouldn't see any increase in trips on Forest Retreat Drive from our project. Regarding the buffer adjacent to the eastern property line, we worked with Timothy and staff on maintaining that buffer, and we're proceeding with a no disturbance of that buffer of 30 feet. And so a lot of the existing trees and vegetation within that 30-foot strip will stay there, and we'll supplement that buffer as required by the city for the landscaping. So hopefully some of those existing trees that you have there will remain, and we won't have to tear those down and put back new. 30-foot is what was required in the CDP, and that's what we have. The 50-foot buffer is to the street and to the buildings. There are no buildings within that, but yeah, but it is a 30-foot no disturb buffer landscape.
And I can verify that it was the Music City Studio plan was it was a 30-foot non-disturbed buffer, and then they had an additional 20 feet that was disturbed, but there was no driveway or buildings. This is the same setup.
Yeah, similar setup. So we didn't pull buildings or pull roads closer to you. So the 30-foot I was referencing is the no disturb. And really here to answer any questions you guys might have. Sit up here and talk about traffic. I don't know if everybody wants to listen to that or not.
Yes. Sir, let us ask that question because we were going to do that. Just let us do that. So, if nothing else, too, we need to ask it for no other reason. We've got microphones, and this gets recorded for television too, or YouTube on that. So that way, the audience outside this walls can hear it as well too on that.
Related to the new interchange off 386, I don't have any other information that Keith and this team up here would have related to when that may happen or how that may happen. We didn't study that as part of this project.
And if you do have an inside track to TDOT and know what they're going to do, well, we would like to know that. We'll have a separate conversation on that too. So, I do have a question before opening it up to other commissioners. And this may not be fair to kind of ask because I don't know how much involvement you had with the previous project or how much that you've even studied that, but knowing that we've approved the other project on this, compare what your traffic count may be to what theirs would have been. That just kind of gives us a frame of reference on that, if you can do that on that. And that might be a tough question.
Yeah, I don't have the exact figures in front of it. If we get a copy of the previous traffic study, we'd be happy to compare those numbers. I will say we are less square footage and less, generally that would mean less intense traffic numbers depending on the tenants that we have here. The light manufacturing use does generate less truck traffic that use that we asked for. You see a lot more office type, tenants in these smaller buildings as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the Music City Studios numbers in front of me, but we are less dense overall.
Did you do any comparison to that, or did y'all just come in and do your own thing?
Yeah, we did our own
Okay.
traffic study, analyzed the intersections on, at direction of the Engineering and Public Works Department, and did the analysis like we would on any new project. So we didn't necessarily compare trips. We did compare overall square footage of Music City Studios versus ours, which we are less than theirs, and not as tall either.
Okay. Questions, comments from commissioners?
So all of your traffic will eventually wind back up on Main Street, Free Hill Road area.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they'll,
None of it will be going over to Forest Retreat Road.
that's correct. Yeah, they'll exit off of, internal to the park. They will exit on the driveways that we have planned on the Molly Walton Drive. They'll hang a left or go westbound and then take a left on Free Hill Road and end up back on Main Street at the signalized intersection.
Other questions, comments from commissioners? See a hand moving down there. Commissioner Hardwick.
Being in the commercial real estate industry, I do more office and retail work, very little industrial. So this is not a project that would impact me. But I do know that there is very little industrial space in this county. There's very little industrial space in Middle Tennessee. I think it's a good project. I think it's a good developer. I think they're going to build a really nice looking, my understanding it's going to be concrete tilt up, not a metal building. So it's going to be Class A construction. And I think it is a good project that will be for the city and that will allow traffic to get off there at Free Hill, jump right on Vietnam Veterans and exit. So it's not going to impact up into the city. I think it'll bring new jobs into the city, and I just can't say how happy I am that this is getting built, assuming we approve it tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardwick. I do have a question just kind of about timetable and stuff. Walk me through kind of your timeline, when you expect build out. Is this something y'all are building on spec? Do y'all have tenants in mind? I mean, when do you expect build out to be? Just give me a little bit about
Sure.
that.
Yeah, I'm happy
And
to.
I know some of this you might not be able to reveal,
Yeah,
but just kind of what y'all can share.
I'm a civil engineer by trade, and so I'm not
Yeah.
building the buildings,
You-
but
You've got a team here on this, sure.
but this fine gentleman here can
Okay.
answer those.
Yeah, sorry. For those of y'all I haven't met yet, I'm Lane Baker with Lincoln Property Company. So the project start time is kind of dependent, candidly, on this process right here and whether or not a BOMA process is involved. But regardless, our conviction has not changed. We have an institutional equity partner on board with signed documents. There's no, financing contingency or anything. And it's really about how quickly we can get drawings through and into permitting so that we can move forward. So our ideal start time, pending you all's decision, is late November, early December. It's anywhere from about 13 to 15 months to deliver the buildings, at which point we'll start leasing them up. Jeff, to your question on the tenants, as of right now, it is being built on spec, but what I would tell you is we've had interest already this early in the project from several users, some that would relocate. One was relocating from East Nashville in a warehouse. Another was a new to market, and then the third was also new to market. Those are, requirements between 50 to 150,000 square feet, bringing significant jobs and opportunities to the city of Hendersonville.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I know you can be, there's only so much you can reveal on that, but would these be folks that live here locally, or would they be new folks coming into the city to work here, or would it be a mix of both, or what can you, I know you've got to talk a little bit in vagaries on that, but can you give me a little bit of insight with what you can?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're open arms to any tenant that's interested and credible and a good use for the community, but I think our vision for that is kind of a mix of exactly what you said. It's local communities that may have outgrown their space here, or they have 100,000 square feet in Gallatin, but they want to be in Hendersonville and they want 30,000 square feet here. I think there's also new to market users that want to effectively serve the northern side of Nashville, of Hendersonville, up Goodlettsville, Madison, that will want to be here. But as far as the kind of profile of the business, I think it's very conforming to the existing uses along Freehill Road and Molly Walton Drive. That's a lot of building supply parts groups. That's, you know, local businesses, mechanical and HVAC contractors. You have steel fabricators. All of these uses that are already within the submarket, we feel like are a perfect use for this this location, and we think that they're going to bring a lot of jobs. And so the short answer is we don't have any certainty on what that looks like quite yet, but that's kind of our vision. Or it may be somebody that has, you know, 500,000 square feet along 840 in Wilson County, but they need a more efficient way to serve this area of Middle Tennessee, and they may want, you know, a location in Hendersonville.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I'm going to make a motion to approve with all staff comments. Second. And we have a motion and a second from Commissioner Silkwood. Caitlin, will you call the roll, please? Or I guess moving to electronic vote. Sorry, I missed last month. I'm off. So.
Motion passes with 8 yeses, 0 abstentions, 0 noes.
Thank you all.
Next up on the agenda is item 9, staff level projects that have been approved. I'm going to turn it over to Director Free right now to kind of run through these and let him also give kind of a rundown on item 10 of staff level projects that are pending as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just hit a couple of them, and I can answer any questions about any of them. I will note the Birdie Bros outdoor patio up on the streets of Indian Lake. They're going to be putting a little bit of outdoor area along the sidewalk, and so we've been working with them and finally approved that. A charging station that's going to be at a gas station at 768 East Main Street. Edmonton Bank, they did a color change of their building. It looks really nice if you drive by there. Also, a small cell site plan was approved as well. On projects that are pending, we've got several that are pending. Some of those are the Alexander commercial plat that's right here behind City Hall. Also working with the Hendersonville High School dugout improvements at the baseball field for the Hendersonville High School that's over in the Drakes Creek Park area. Also, where you see Music City Studios, Molly Walton CPD amendment. This is just a very minor amendment that we're going to do at staff level, that we're going to have the site plan that was approved, just so we've got an up-to-date conform CDP that lines up with everything. So as Timothy had said, it's really not any significant changes from the Music City studio, but we just kind of wanted to get that cleaned up. Also, a couple of more small cells. And what those small cells are for folks, when you see those big poles, sometimes they have a light on it, but sometimes they don't, and they're just kind of big, and they're right there by the sidewalk. What that is that's different cell providers that are getting boost signal so that to improve as you're in your car, or along the different roadways, so you've got better cell reception. So that's what that is. So that's everything, Mr. Chairman, and I can answer any questions anyone may have.
Commissioner Silkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Free, could you tell us a little bit about the donation building going in at the Indian Lake Peninsula Church?
Yes, I will have Timothy cover that on the donation. I think maybe he's been dealing with that. He has all the specifics.
So, yes, that's a well, it just started out as a sort of a shed that was going to be located on the back side of their parking lot to collect clothing donations that would then be taken off and distributed elsewhere. In working with them, we had some requirements as far as screening from that street back there, then as far as in addition to the materials that could be used on the shed to meet our requirements, and looking at those, they have since changed their plan to not do a shed, but instead do a short trailer that would just be parked in one of those back parking spaces to handle those donations.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners?
Can I make a comment, please?
We're not supposed to, but this is supposed to be questions, comments from Commissioner Tom.
I'm just gonna just say, I don't know if anybody else hears this or not, but I'm having trouble hearing all of it.
Oh.
I don't know if your microphones are
Okay.
not
Yeah.
loud enough, but I
Okay.
barely
Yeah.
heard anything you said.
Oh, okay.
I'll take that sort of feedback. Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that comment,
Yeah, thank
because
you.
If I'm
Yeah.
here to hear you, I need to hear
Yeah,
you.
no,
understand.
thank you.
Sure.
I'll push it mine a little
Yeah.
closer. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments from commissioners?
I agree. Volume needs to be turned up.
Huh? No, I'm sorry.
I have a hard time hearing sometimes myself.
Yeah. Well, with that, I'm going to put on your microphone so you can make that comment, Commissioner Hastings.
Turn up the volume.
Um,
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is planning director comments. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I just have a
Director
couple of things, and Mr. Hasty definitely has. I can always hear Mr. Hasty. He has that deep, rich voice. I've just got a couple of things to share. There's a lot of things going on, and we're continuing to have a lot of pre-development meetings with folks that are interested in investing in the community, and on all different aspects, not just residential, but as you saw tonight, industrial, commercial, retail. All kinds of different things. So it's definitely the interest in our community is definitely at a heightened level. This month's agenda and last month's agenda were a little bit on the lighter side, but we will see in the coming months that it will increase probably substantially with a lot of different things. One thing that is on the agenda for the August meeting already is Jim and Nick's Barbecue restaurant, and I don't know if people are familiar with that. But it's pretty nice restaurant, and it's going to be it's looking to locate next to the new Chick-fil-A that's right here behind City Hall, as well as it's going to be interesting. We've got the Falcon Ridge, which is an old subdivision plan development that was approved on New Shackle Island, way out there, and on kind of on the very edge of the city. That was never developed, but we have developers that have been working on that. They're going to be coming back in to do an amendment to the FDP. On that, what's going to be interesting, they're looking at not increasing the number of lots, but reconfiguring them to increase the amount of open space, but decrease the overall size of the average lot. So that's going to be coming next month. And Mr. Chairman, that is everything that I have.
Thank you, Director Freed.
Thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Altizer and a second from Commissioner Slattery. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, motion carries. We are